What's going on, guys? Noah Brewer here, back again with another video. And I know we're in a different setting. I'm actually traveling right now, so the lighting is weird, the audio is weird, everything is weird, and I'm just trying to make this a fun video where I am going to reach out to my subscribers and followers and possibly even clients. I'm not sure what's going to happen yet. And I'm going to review their ad accounts and give them the best advice that I possibly can, just based on what I see in their ad account, the understanding that I have of which strategy they're trying to follow, and how their store looks, and etc, etc. So I hope that this becomes a good video. I have one guy on the line right now. I'm trying to get more people that have winning products so that I can actually help more. But yeah, let's see what happens. I'm in a hotel, I'm traveling, it's kind of weird, but I'm trying to still make it a fun video. So let's get right into it. Alright, so before we get into the actual reviews, I want to talk about a little bit of what I'm looking for when I'm reviewing these products. So to me, there's really three factors that I need to know in order to know what I'm doing in any ad account, any store, when I'm trying to decide what the next best thing to do is. And the three things is, what is the product, like basically all the information on the product, like what does it cost, what do you sell it for, that type of information. And of course the average order value. The next is going to be your store. I'm going to do a basic store review of all these people and see if there's any way that I can give them some tips on how to increase their conversion rate. Even this is going to depend on, how long their store has been running. If it's been running a super long time, like more than a month, I most likely won't change anything. But again, it all depends on the situation. And the last thing, of course, is the ad account. Now, my plan today is to actually try to figure out two things. One thing is, what are they currently doing that is working the best? And the next thing is, what are they currently doing that is not working the best? Now, most of the time, scaling is literally just a matter of picking out what is working really well and doing more of it and trying to figure out how to do more of it. And then obviously what didn't do well, you want to cut down on it and not do as much of it. So a pretty simple task for reviewing each store. I'm just going to use my experience to give the best recommendation for everybody based on their product, their store, and their ad account. So I hope that we can get some people to review. I'm sure we will. I'm not sure how many, but yeah, this should be a good video, and thanks for watching. Alright guys, so we have our first contender here, Tomer. Now, he actually doesn't speak very good English, so we are just going to be texting. I've been texting back and forth with him for probably the past hour or two, just learning about his store, his product, learning about what he's done in his ad account. I don't have a screen recording here, but I do have images, which I will pop up over here. Let me move over a bit so I can show them. So I'll show you the screenshots that I'm seeing while I'm explaining this, but I'll give you the basic rundown of his situation here. So he has a lower ticket product. The product costs him $7.27. I know it's super specific, but he sells it for $23, and this is US dollars. You will see that his ad account is in fact backwards. This is because he is in Israel and they read from right to left. Yeah, I know. And the currency is also in ISL, I believe. So this might be a little bit confusing, but buys it for $7, sells it for $23. His average order value is $34, and his average break-even point is $23. So that's taking the average percentage of profit and looking at his average order value and just taking that as a basic figure. So I looked at his store. His store looks good. Obviously, everything is in Hebrew. I couldn't understand what I was looking at, but he does have free shipping. He doesn't have a currency converter, but he's only selling to one country. So, like I said, not a method that I follow anymore, but I have in the past, and it does work. So, looking at his ad account, let me pull up the pictures here. I noticed that he's following my strategy pretty loosely, honestly. It's not to a T. Like, if I was in his position, I would have been a lot more strict with the way that I did things. But he is following the method in my 0 to 7 figure ebook. If you haven't read it, I'll leave a link in the description. I'll show you a picture over here. So I can see that he did his initial test campaign, he did a relaunch campaign, started retargeting, he did another relaunch campaign, and then from there he said it wasn't really picking up, so he started doing lookalikes, which he made an engagement-based lookalike campaign, which honestly is his best campaign so far, which keep that in mind. And then you can see here that he has a top 5 $100 per day CBO sitting at a 2.59 ROAS, so basically a 2.6. Pretty good, but honestly, for a $100 a day CBO, you really want to see, 3 to 5 ROAS, like somewhere between there, 3 being on the lower end. So this CBO is most likely not going to be that scalable, and I know that when I'm looking at this. His plan, basically tomorrow he was going to make another $100 CBO, so kind of like a relaunch of a CBO, with 3 of the same ad sets as this one, and then 2 new ones. So I think this is a pretty solid plan, but I actually was able to look through his ad sets, and this is why we've been talking for so long, and I believe I came up with an actual better plan that I think will work better, but obviously time will tell. I don't know if I'm going to be making this video long enough to see the results of this, but let me just share with you what I noticed. So right now I'm looking at the lookalike campaign, the one with the 4 ROAS, the one that had the best results so far. And I'm looking at this now, and I'm looking at this now, and I'm noticing that there are 4 ad sets, you can see them on the top there, that are performing really good. One of them has a 9 ROAS, the worst one has a 2.05, the worst one that is active has a 3. So obviously these 4 are pretty good, but obviously for CBOs we're looking for 5 ad sets, not 4. And that's just because in my mind that's what's worked the best for me, so that's what I want to do. But if you notice on the bottom, there's an ad set that he actually turned off that has 4 purchases with a 2.11 ROAS. Now in this situation, where we want 5 ad sets to put in a CBO, this would be fine if we take the top 4 that are active, and then take the one on the bottom here, the Israel 1 to 2% of the 30-day engagement, then we can make a pretty solid top 5, right? Like 4 ad sets that are absolutely crushing it, and then 1 that kind of did good, but not so much. So I think, in my mind, because the interest CBO didn't do that good, I think moving over here to lookalikes will actually perform a lot better. Now obviously he's going to have to test this and let me know how it goes tomorrow or the next day. And then after that, he can either choose to scale that CBO, or if that CBO doesn't work, then he can do his original plan, which was just to do a relaunch of an interest CBO. But I thought this was interesting, and I hope that you can kind of see how I looked at this ad account and went into each campaign and really analyzed, what was working the best, what wasn't working. Maybe I can find ways to improve. Like his original plan was to do a relaunch of a CBO, whereas I come in here and say like, hey, you have 5 ad sets that are lookalikes, sure, but they're performing pretty damn well, and they'd probably do really good in a CBO. So he's going to go ahead and do that for tomorrow, but I hope that this was a good learning experience. Maybe you guys are in a similar situation. That's what this video is all about. Alright guys, it is day number 2 trying to make this video now. Not a lot of people hitting me up for help, but that's okay. It was just New Year's. It is now 2021. Happy New Year's, by the way. But we have our second contender here. Let me give you the details on this product specifically. So the product cost is $30. They are selling it for $64.95. Their average order value is $63.62 over the last 30 days, and this brings their average break-even point to about $33.71. So I just use this information when I'm looking in the ad account and looking at the ROAS. So the margin is practically 50%. So 50% of the sales are going to be gross profit, before ad spend. So I'm going to pull up the pictures of the ad account now. I will pop them up right here. Yes, this is one of my client stores, and I was talking to my ad buyer and the client, just discussing, what they've done so far and maybe how they can do it better. And I gotta say, they did a very, very good job with this store so far. The store is doing between $800 to $1,200 per day, depending on the day. Obviously it fluctuates, but what we have here is essentially the 3 original campaigns. So basically the first test campaign, the relaunch campaign, and then it looks like they did another relaunch campaign with new interest again. So we have 3 original campaigns down there at the bottom, and everything above that is all CBOs. So, or actually no, this whole account is CBOs, my bad. But yeah, they did CBO from the testing phase, so this was using our new testing CBO method, which I'm not going to get too into yet, because it's not fully proven out, but as you can see, it is working pretty well. And by the way, this screenshot is taken on a like 1-day basis, the one that I'm showing on the screen here. This is not the lifetime, obviously. This is just 1 day. So basically what the strategy here was to take the original ad sets from the original 3 campaigns and duplicate them into a $50 per day CBO. So they would take one ad set and duplicate it 5 times into a CBO at 50 per day. So you can see that they have 6 $50 per day CBOs. So essentially all that means is it's 6 different ad sets that did well. And now they are trying to move into taking those ad sets taking those CBOs that are at 50 per day and increasing them to 100 per day. So this is kind of like their plan to scale. And I did ask him, you know, what's your plan if the $100 per day CBOs do not work? And that's kind of where he lost me, because if you see here, the $100 per day CBO did not pop off. And this is actually the second one that they tried. It's the one at the very top. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, so you have a lot of $50 per day CBOs working, but you know, what happens now? Like you try to duplicate them to 100 per day and they don't work. So I basically gave my best advice. By the way, if you look at this, you also notice that they are not retargeting at all. So I'll get into what I think should be the next move in this ad account. So the situation is $50 per day CBOs are working great, but we're trying to scale them now and they're not working that good. So here's my plan. Since each CBO at 50 per day only has 1 ad set in them, and we have 6 of them, what I recommend is taking 5 of the best CBOs out of those 6, taking 1 ad set from each CBO, probably the best one, duplicating it into another 50 per day CBO. So this is going to create what I like to call a top 5 CBO. It's 5 different ad sets in 1 CBO. And essentially he's just going to put that at 50 a day just like the other ones and see if that scales a little bit better. So what I recommend, let that run for a few days. If it does good, then let it run for 5 days and then try to scale that one to 100 per day. If it does work, I think that 5 different ad sets in 1 CBO may scale to $100 per day better, and 200 and 400 and so on. It might scale better than just having a single ad set. It's more diverse. CBOs are weird like that sometimes. Some accounts, single ad set CBOs work the best, and some accounts, top 5s work the best. So this is something that they can try that they haven't tried yet, that in my opinion is going to have a very high chance of working. And my best recommendation, if it doesn't work, like let's say they try the top 5 CBO and it doesn't work, which honestly, the only reason it wouldn't is because all they've been doing so far is single ad set CBOs. So the ad account could just be trained to do good with that and not with top 5s. But anyways, if that does happen, what I recommend is doing retargeting as soon as possible after they find out that it won't work, because what they are creating right now is a pattern of campaigns that are not working. So they did $200 per day CBOs, and then they're going to try this top 5 CBO, and that's 3 new campaigns that they've made that haven't worked, which I think is just not a good thing. It's not something that you want. It's not the type of pattern that you want to be creating inside of your ad account. And I think that retargeting is a really good way to kind of like come back from a fault like that and just re-spark the ad account and get a really good campaign in there going again. So that is my recommendation. Again, most things up to this point have been done perfectly. Obviously, it's my ad buyer. He knows what he's doing. He's been trained pretty good, and he's also a very smart guy himself. I actually did a case study with him using this method on a store that he took to 10K a day, which I'll pop the thumbnail here so that you can see. But yeah, new method. There is obviously some ways that they can improve and try different things, which is why I wanted to include it in this video. So for our next store that we reviewed, this is another client of mine that is kind of in a weird situation. So before we get into the situation, the cost of the product is $23. They sell it for $39.99. So yes, the margin is a little bit smaller than what I usually recommend, and from what I heard, the reason for this is the supplier actually increased the price after they started selling it. So in my experience, as long as it's profitable, sometimes you're better off just leaving your sale price the way that it is, because you know, changing the sale price can change your conversions. and mess with the optimization a little bit. So going into the situation that this store is in, they had this product as a winner on a different ad account, and it was doing pretty good. I don't think it was doing as good as this, but on the other ad account it was still doing good. That's where the original campaigns are. That's why with this example you don't really see the original campaigns. You can see that what they did was they actually brought the data over to a new ad account, and they started on the new ad account with retargeting. So, you know, there's no cold traffic here to build off of, which is part of the reason I think why they got into lookalikes so early on. But you can see the campaigns are doing pretty good. So they have 2 retargeting campaigns. One of them just looks like our basic retargeting structure, and then the next one looks like a top 5 CBO at $50 per day. So from there, I'm assuming they took they didn't take the best retargeting audiences. They did it in order. So you can see all website visitors, add to cart, initiate checkout, purchase, and then they did 2 video view lookalike campaigns, which you can see they vary in results, but you know, we got a 3.4 ROAS, 4.1, 2.5 didn't do that good, 4.7 really good. That is the purchase lookalike campaign. So he had this foundation of all these lookalike campaigns that were doing pretty good. I think the average ROAS on this over the last 30 days is 3.6, something along there. You can see on the bottom it says 2.6. Keep in mind that's including all of the data from you know, whatever this client was doing before us. So that's not only for this product. So you can see that, which I agree with, the next thing that they did in this ad account was actually a top 5 CBO at $100 per day. And they basically took the 5 best lookalike audiences from all these campaigns and put them into a CBO, which I think was a great decision. You can see that it's performing really well. It's only on day 1 today. It's only on day 1 and it already has a 4.9 ROAS. It has 5 purchases already with only $40 spent. So pretty damn good results for day 1 on a CBO. Now, obviously, I personally think that this was the absolute best move that they could have made. I kind of wish they did it a little bit earlier, like maybe before doing video view lookalikes, but other than that, I think it was well executed and perfectly done. Obviously, it's a client. My ad buyers know what they're doing. So I more want to talk about, you know, going into the future. I basically wrote a little roadmap on how they can continue this scale and continue trying to find things that'll work so that they can actually get to the profits that they want to get to. So not really changing what they're currently doing because, again, it's a client. They're doing everything pretty good. But, you know, this particular ad buyer's plan was to, I believe today they were going to create the rest of the video view lookalikes. And I said that that was not a good idea. I think he's gonna mess with the CBO that he made today if he goes and does that. So what I recommended for him to do was to wait a total of 5 days, so 4 more days, and see if that $100 per day CBO can remain consistent for those five total days. So the reason I do this is so that nothing can distract that CBO. Like all of Facebook's power, all the optimization is going to that one campaign. And if it is really consistent on day 5, usually I do day 7, but recently we've been doing more day 5s. That's why if you compare it to my ebook or anything, it's a little bit different. But if it's consistent over those 5 days, then what I recommend him to do is take that 100 per day CBO, the top 5, and duplicate it into a 200 per day CBO, wait 5 days, and then just continue to duplicate and double the budget until probably around 400 a day. And then what I would do from that point is make a top 5 number 2, and which is basically a new top 5 at $100 per day, just with different interests. So this is going to be different lookalikes that are in the CBO, and then just repeat that process. So if this is perfectly executed by the end of it, they'll have $100 per day top 5 CBO 1, $200 per day top 5 CBO 1, $400 per day top 5 CBO 1, and then the same set of CBOs just with all different ad sets. So there's a few variants that I gave this ad buyer, a couple pieces of advice. If he lets this current CBO run for 5 days and he doesn't end up, if the CBO doesn't end up working in those 5 days, then what I said that he should do is turn it off and make the different top 5 CBO right away. So find a different set of 5 ad sets that also do really well, and make another top 5 CBO at 100, and also give that a couple days. If it does well, give it 5 days, and try to continue that process over again. Now, I did recommend that if neither of the top 5 $100 per day CBOs end up working out, then what I would do is continue creating the video view lookalike campaigns, which you can see on the top. It's VVW 3 seconds, and then you got VVW 10 seconds. That's just video views 10 seconds, so people that view 10 seconds of the video, and then there's 25% of the video, there's 50%, 75%, and I believe there's a 95% as well. So there's probably 4 more lookalike campaigns that he can make, and then what I would do from that point is try another top 5 CBO with the new ad sets that he found when he was making the new CBOs. So a few different ways that this can go. Obviously nothing could end up working and it could just die out tomorrow, or he could end up scaling it really high. Like if the $200 per day ends up working and the $400 per day ends up working, this could potentially be a 4 to 5K a day store all day with these numbers that I'm seeing, if the CBOs end up working. If the CBOs don't end up working, he can continue creating lookalike campaigns for probably another week and a half, 2 weeks, and then after that he can do CBOs, and maybe that's the point where it'll scale really high. So a few different things that can happen with the store. I just gave some recommendations on what he can do, and again, I hope that this is valuable and kind of helping you determine like how people like me make decisions inside of ad accounts. I look at a lot of ad accounts, obviously, so figuring this stuff out is pretty easy to me, but I can understand how some of you struggle figuring out, you know, what the best next move is, which I think is super important. All right, so this is going to be our last one, I believe, for today, unless I, you know, find somebody else, but this is actually an old student of mine, pretty good friend too. You know, we get along. But this one's exciting because this is not like the other ones that we've been reviewing today. This one is a lot more established and it's done over 150K in sales. So I was able to actually come in here and use like my expertise to its full potential. I feel really good about the advice that I gave pertaining this store. A couple things that I wanted to cover. I'm not going to go into depth about what they're doing because obviously there's a lot going on inside of this ad account. But the first thing that I'd like to point out is they have a ton of campaigns. They're spending probably about $1,500, $2,000 a day. I didn't really check, honestly, but you can see the budgets and the names. But one thing that I noticed like right away is they were not doing retargeting. Now, if you look at their impressions, I believe that this is last 14 days or you know, last 30 days, something like that. But they have 12 million impressions for this product, for this ad. So the fact that they only have one little teeny little retargeting campaign at the bottom here, just, you know, it's a huge lack of retargeting, you know, when you compare it to the amount of impressions that they're getting. So obviously just me pushing them to do retargeting, I know that he knows that he should be, and he told me that he's tested a few things that haven't worked so good, but what I did recommend was, you can see here that they're only doing 180-day retargeting, and if you look at the ROAS, it's actually not doing that great, you know, when you compare it to the other campaigns. So as a 2.19 ROAS, by the way, the break even for this product is 1.2 ROAS. So a 2 ROAS is actually very profitable in this situation, just so you know. But yeah, this retargeting is not doing that great, and the reason is, I believe, is because they're doing image ads with retargeting, and all their other campaigns are video ads. Now, not that image ads are bad, because image ads can actually perform really well with retargeting. Just in this specific case, I recommended that they tested a retargeting campaign 180 days with the same video ad that they're using with cold traffic. So like I said, image ads work great, just not in this specific scenario. Unfortunately, you know, retargeting in my book should maintain like at least probably double the ROAS that your cold traffic does. So if, you know, you can see that the cold traffic here is, you know, 2, 1.8, 2, somewhere around that level. So you really want to see your retargeting with a 3 to 4 ROAS in this situation. It might not ever get to that point, but you can use that kind of as a gauge to tell how good it's doing. Nonetheless, you want it to be doing better than your cold traffic, ideally. So once he does that, gets his retargeting 180 with a working creative, whether it's a video, a 2D animation, you know, whatever he finds that works, I recommended that he made 3 other campaigns. One for retargeting in the 30 days, one for retargeting in the 7 days, and one for 3 days. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my Retargeting 101 series where I cover everything that you need to know about retargeting super in depth, including time frames, which is what I'm talking about now. So if he follows these steps, he's going to have a new retargeting 180, a new 30-day, a new 7-day, and a new 3-day. And honestly, I don't see any reason why all 4 of those won't be insanely profitable for the store. So right off the bat, I believe I've pointed out a few ways that he can increase his profits by a lot and actually utilize the data that he's collecting here a lot better. So in terms of scaling, there's a couple things that he's doing to try to scale it right now. 2 different things is, one of them is a no interest CBO. He's kind of doing multiple of them, but we'll focus on one for now because, like I said, things get a little bit messy when you have this many campaigns. And then the next one is a lookalike top 5 CBO. So 2 different things here is the type of scaling strategy that they used and what's in it. So obviously one of these is a no interest CBO and the other one is a lookalike CBO, top 5 to be specific. Strategy wise, for the no interest CBO campaign, he decided to start it off at $50 per day. Then when that works, duplicate it to 100 per day. And then when that works, duplicate that into 500 per day. Now this is not a sequence that I'm familiar with, but he said that he does it with other clients and it works good. In this current situation, I don't think it's working that good. You can kind of see that with the 500 per day campaigns, even though they've only been running for a day and a half, they only have a 1.2 ROAS, which, like I said, is where their break-even point is. So they're just breaking even. Which, by the way, that $50 per day on the no interest is a fake sale, so it doesn't actually have a 20 ROAS. It's Facebook misfiring or mistracking sales. So looking at what he's doing with his top 5 lookalike CBOs, so this is where he's following my more traditional duping and doubling method of scaling CBOs. So he started the top 5 at 100 per day and then duplicated it to 200 per day, and then from there duplicated it to 400 per day. And you can see that they're all working really, really well, especially the 200 per day. And the 400 per day with a 2 ROAS is actually really good because, like I said, his break even is 1.2 and it's spending so much per day that the volume makes up for that difference. So a couple things to note here. No interest CBO is actually doing really, really good. It's just not scaling that great using that strategy. And the top 5 lookalike CBO is just doing great all around. So there's a few things that you can pull from this. So the first thing that I recommended was take that $400 per day CBO lookalike, the top 5 one, and duplicate it into 800 per day. So right now he went from 100 to 200 to 400, and I think it's about time that he takes that to 800 per day and brings it to the next level. So that's number 1. Number 2 has to do with the no interest targeting campaigns. So he decided to go from 50 to 100 to 500. What I recommended him to do, because the lookalike CBO did so well, what I recommend here is do the same strategy that you did with the lookalikes, but do it with the no interest. So take that 100 per day and duplicate it into a 200 per day. And then if that does good, duplicate that into 400 per day, and then that into 800. So follow the same scaling sequence that you did with the lookalikes because it's already proven to work. And your no interest CBO is actually doing pretty good. So you can actually scale it really good if you follow the right strategy. So for the no interest, I think it's a matter of switching the strategy. And for scaling with the lookalikes, I think it's a matter of increasing the budget and replicating that. So after the 800 per day on the lookalikes, what I told him to do was make a top 5 CBO lookalike number 2 at 100 per day. See if he can get a second top 5 lookalike to do well. And then if he can do that, then he can bring that one up to 800 and he'll probably be hitting some pretty sick numbers by that point. So this one was definitely a little bit more advanced and there's a lot more going on here, but if you do know what I'm talking about, you know how insanely valuable this could be. If my advice ends up working good for him, he can end up scaling the store really, really high just because it'll be such a clear path to success. So to recap, basically spend more money in retargeting, and I gave him the exact way to do it. Start the 800 per day on the lookalike CBO, you know, take it to that next level. Just take the risk. It could work, it could not work, who knows. Just try it out. And if it does work, then make the second CBO with lookalikes. And then for scaling the no interest CBO, I would recommend that he sticks to the scaling system that he already knows works, for this account at least. So the one that he's doing now is 50, 100, 500. What I want him to try is 100, 200, 400, 800. So I think if he does that, he's going to see success really good with both of these campaigns and hopefully scale this one to the moon. Alright guys, that will conclude today's video. I hope that this was valuable for you. Like I said, I'm traveling right now, I'm in a hotel, so I don't have many resources at my fingertips right now. But I still tried to make a really valuable video. I hope that it was helpful seeing my perspectives and decision makings on what to do next for these specific ad accounts. A couple of them were followers, a couple of them were clients or students. Couple of them were clients and a previous student of mine. So this was pretty fun. It took a while to make. Like, we're on day 3 right now of me trying to find people to review their accounts, but that's perfectly okay. I hope that the advice that I gave ends up in these people getting some really good results. Maybe I will make a follow-up video. I let them all know to let me know how the results do. So if they do good, I'll probably come in here and do it again with the same stores, which could be cool because we might be able to get some sort of like growing a store live effect going on here. But yeah, I hope, if not now, one day you're able to take these principles and these methods that I used today and use them for yourself and make you some money. But that's it for this video. I'm Noah Burr and I'm out. Peace.